Ohio State Buckeyes are headed to the national championship game where they will face the Notre Dame Fighting Irish after a dramatic 28-14 win in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us fieldside here at AT&T Stadium to look back on this performance. What a night it was for the Ohio State defense. Every time that we saw this Texas team start to do something, it seemed like Ohio State had an answer for it, specifically at the end of the game with the goal line stand that Jack Sawyer ended up taking to the house for a touchdown score to secure that 28-14 win, as Texas had a chance to tie it up in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. And you look at this performance from Ohio State, this was the most tested that they've been in the college football playoffs so far to this point. You go back and look what they did against Tennessee. They dominated. The Oregon game, they dominated. Tonight, this was a game where at halftime, they had a 7-7 ball game, get a kick return touchdown to take a 14-7 lead at the break. Texas then goes on to respond with a score themselves in the third quarter here. And every time, Ohio State answered. And what you wonder about these teams in these type of situations where you're looking at, all right, okay, they know how to dominate, but how can they deliver when it's a close game? Do they know how to win in crunch time? And tonight, Ohio State didn't have their best effort by any stretch of the imagination this evening, but yet here they were, finding a way to get the job done in what was not their best night. A lot of penalties, a lot of mistakes where this Ohio State team stood within their own way. So let's ask you guys here on College Football Now, who will win the College Football Playoff National Championship game? Do you think it's going to be Ohio State, or do you think it will be Notre Dame on January 20th from Atlanta? Get your predictions in now. Let us know in the comments section below. Folks, this is why you subscribe to Chat Sports. Whether we're in the studio, on location, we're finding ways to bring you content like never before here on College Football Now. We're talking everything from the College Football Playoff to the transfer portal, recruiting, NIL, and more right here on the channel. Subscribe now for free for the latest happenings throughout all of college football, as well as the NFL, the NBA, and more. We had a fantastic college football watch party tonight, and we're going to do it again for the College Football Playoff National Championship game. Subscribe now for free. You'll be glad you did. All right, so now we look ahead to the national title game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. And a lot of the talk going into tonight about this matchup was that this was the real national championship game, that Notre Dame didn't really stand much of a chance compared to Ohio State or Texas if they were to face them in the title game. That was a sentiment spoken by a lot of people. But I think if you're Notre Dame after tonight, and with the performance they pulled off against Penn State, the way they rallied and the way their defense delivered, Riley Leonard, say what you want, he made plays, they ran the football well. I think it was way too premature to sit here and say that tonight's game was the national championship game. Now, Ohio State already about a 9-point favorite over Notre Dame in that national championship matchup. But Notre Dame, I think based on what we've seen, obviously the biggest surprise of the college football playoff to this point, you can't count them out. As you go back to that first round game against Indiana, dominated that game. Georgia, that game was a pick'em, and they really controlled that game as well. And then you go to what they did last night in that win against Penn State, and they found a way to win. So they're going to embrace that underdog mentality. That's what they've been doing throughout this playoff. And another thing I would say, all the pressure going into this national title game on January 20th is going to be on Ohio State. It will not be on Notre Dame. This is the best year that Notre Dame's had in 30-plus seasons in college football. And you think about Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame and going to LSU, where he felt like he could not compete at Notre Dame, right, for national titles. That's why he went to LSU. You bring in Marcus Freeman now, and they're doing what they've been wanting to do for such a long time, and take that next step to compete for titles. They're obviously glad to be there. And they're not just happy to be there, but all the pressure's on Ohio State. Because you think about this, when it comes to this Ohio State team, you lost to Michigan just a few weeks ago. And when they lost to Michigan, there was all the rumblings about Ryan Day's future. If he was coaching for his job in the Tennessee game and in this playoff, if he needed to win a national title to keep his job. And now we sit here today, and Ohio State, they still are thinking about that Michigan game. They still are thinking, what do we need to do to put that behind us? And the best thing that they can possibly do to put that Michigan game behind them is to win the national title as far as that goes. Now, before we go any further in today's show, let me tell you about our sponsor, that is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose 2 or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points in football, rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, all sorts of different categories to choose from. Go to PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. And PrizePicks right now, folks, they are giving you a couple of great offers. You can win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. And on top of that, you can take $5, just play $5, and they'll give you $50 to play for free. You don't even have to win to get the money. Just go to PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. And with PrizePicks, you could look ahead to the national championship game. Plenty of pro football playoff action to check out on PrizePicks as well, along with the other sports, and you can mix and match them as well. Go see for yourself. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. PrizePicks, proud partner of Chat Sports. Glad to have them on board here on today's show. All right, so Ohio State, Notre Dame, the national championship matchup. Let's talk more about just kind of what I'm looking at between these two teams. Talent level wise, obviously Ohio State's a much more talented team than Notre Dame is, just on paper. It's the best roster money can buy at $25 million. We all know that when it comes to this Ohio State team. That's no secret. And they got so many guys that can do it, with Will Howard under center, Jeremiah Smith, what we've seen from all these other guys, from Henderson and company. I mean, they're just so explosive. They got so many weapons, and they're so good on the defensive side of the ball with Jack Sawyer and company too. This team's obviously loaded. They are the more talented team here. But what makes things interesting for Notre Dame, what could make this a competitive game on January 20th, is the fact that Notre Dame does play championship DNA. They run the football well, and they play good defense. And if they run the football well and play good defense in that national title game, then they're going to have a shot, and this could be a competitive game. I would be very surprised if we see a blowout in that national championship game. One more final thought before we wrap up on this, folks. The 12-team playoff. Much has been talked about of this 12-team format of, was there too many games? Was this a bad idea to go to a 12-team playoff? And I sit here today, we just had 2 fantastic semifinal games, with Notre Dame's big win against Penn State last night in the Orange Bowl, and then tonight with Ohio State's win, which was closer than what the final score indicated at 28-14, with Jack Sawyer sealing the deal here. And we saw an instant classic with Texas's win over Arizona State in the Fiesta Bowl. Sure, you had some bad games. You had some blowouts in this college football playoff. Nobody's denying that. But overall, you think about for a second here. In the old format, when we played a 4-game, or a 3-game playoff with 4 teams, we would be starting here and then going to the national title game. The semifinals we saw today were just as good as any semifinals we've seen in the 4-team era, on top of getting a couple of good games in the earlier rounds here. So I'll say this, the seeding certainly needs work. We need to make some changes when it comes to who's getting the first round buys and how we seed these teams. But the fact that we got these great semifinals, and the fact that we're getting 2 teams in Ohio State and Notre Dame that in all likelihood in the old format wouldn't even have gotten a shot to compete for a national title. That's a success at the end of the day. And it's not a perfect system, but it's an improved system. And I think that's a very important thing here. What do you guys think? Is the 12-team college football playoff format a success? Weigh in the comment section. Let us know. Type Y for yes, N for no. Appreciate y'all joining us here from AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Tyler Jones here. Follow me on X at Tyler Jones Live for more college football coverage. We're certainly excited about what's ahead with the national championship game and the offseason quickly approaching. We'll cover it all. Subscribe now for free. I'm Tyler Jones from AT&T Stadium, signing off.